Good morning and afternoon and evening, depending on time zone. Welcome to everyone and thank you so much for being here for the last event in the Unitive Justice room for this week. And Hilary Van Welter, my co-facilitator, and I are going to be facilitating us in a process, co-facilitating in a process that we call constellating for the collective, in order to listen to the archetypes, the messages from the archetypes of justice. So we are in the Unitive Justice room as part of the World Unity Week. And we've been exploring what is unitive justice from many different points of view this week. And today is a further exploration of that. Now, I'll just say for me, the archetypes called me. I had this sort of feeling that they called and said, we want to be seen and acknowledged now. And so one of the ways to look at justice is to look at the symbols, how it's been used symbolically, and the archetypes behind that. And so that's what we're doing today. I invited Hilary, who's very used to working with archetypes, and could we do something together to answer this call of the archetypes? Now, it's as much of an unknowing for me as it is for all of you. It's like, oh, I wonder what they want. What are they here for? So thank you for participating. And Hilary, if you, first of all, I'm going to ask that we do a circle of names. And if you could do that and say where you're from, where you're speaking from, and use that as a time to really ground yourself. Because we found in this collective work that we actually need to locate ourselves where we are in order to be expansive to the many dimensions that we're working in. So just a simple where you are. So I'm Diana Clare, and I live in Ottawa, Canada, the unceded territory of the Anishinaabe Algonquin peoples. Little popcorn. So whoever would like to go next, please do.
I'm Annemarie. I'm calling in from the Netherlands, from Vreeland, a small village in the heart of our country. I'm happy to be here.
I'm Mary Elizabeth, and I'm calling in from Kingston, Ontario in Canada, on the shores of Lake Ontario, unceded property of the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe people. I too am happy to be here.
I'm a fellow Canadian too. My name is Mark. I'm here in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. I think we're on Treaty 6 land here, and it's an absolute pleasure to have been invited. Thank you.
I'm Lisa Marie Main, and I'm based in a little hamlet called Perry Park in Larkspur, Colorado, amongst the magnificent red rocks that were once home to the Ute tribe. And I am here and happy to be here.
I am Pamela. I'm located in Ottawa, the Ottawa River watershed, which is the unceded territory of the Algonquin peoples.
I'm Anita. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I'm Anita, and I'm calling in from Capelle aan de IJssel in the Netherlands. And I feel tempted to mention the early tribes that lived here. There were probably some Germanic or Batavian tribes that lived here. Good to see you all.
I'm Juliet, calling in from County Cork, Ireland, and very happy to be here. And I'm sorry, I'll turn my video on soon. I'm just having a quick bite of lunch. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Andrea. I grew up on Treaty 6 territory. where Mark is from, but I spent a lot of time in Coast Salish territory on the west coast of Canada, and right now I'm in England, surrounded by wise and ancient ones in a little woodland. Nice to meet you all.
Dr. Tom, are you there?
I am here on the banks of the Monocacy River, which I presence often in Frederick, Maryland. And I do not often presence the spirit, the vibe of the Monocacy Indians and the Monocacy people, but I will today. So thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm Hilary Van Welter. I am here in Newmarket, Ontario, the traditional territory of the Wendat, Anishinaabe, and many Chippewa and many other tribes.
So Hilary, will you speak, before we ask for the one word, will you speak to the flower image?
Yes, I will. And for each one of the sessions that Diana Claire was hosting in the Unitive Justice room, a different flower was chosen. We chose to have that represented. And we chose the lotus for this particular session because back in Egyptian times, the lotus flower was very important in their religion, and it meaning creation and rebirth. So it was also the symbol of the sun, because at nighttime it closes, goes beneath the water, and at dawn it comes up above the water and reopens. So it was very representative of the belief system of the Egyptians, and that's why it's cross cultures. The lotus is of course in Indian cultures and a range of different others, but we just love the fact that it was creation and rebirth, because Unitive Justice has a sort of feel of that. So that's why the lotus.
Thank you. Okay, will you lead us in that? First of all, welcome, Rosalba. If you will just state where you're from as part of the grounding. The rest of us have done the circle of names. And you're muted. You're muted.
I'm from Rockwood, Ontario, or what is it? North of Toronto.
Welcome. Thank you for coming early in the morning. Okay, Hilary, we're just beginning, Rosalba.
So this is an inquiry today into Unitive Justice from the perspectives. We're going to be listening to messages from the archetypes. But we thought before we listen to their wisdom, we would just get a very quick sense of when you hear the term Unitive Justice, what comes to mind? And if we could make this really quick as we go through the circle, and I'm going to ask one person, then if you could pass it to the next. And just so that we have a sense of how we're starting in this inquiry of Unitive Justice. And we're also going to then be looking at the end of how do we connect to that term, having listened to the wisdom and messages of the archetypes. So I am going to throw it over to Mary Elizabeth to start.
Having participated earlier in the week, I have some resistance to the term, and I have a lot of unknowing. I don't know what it means yet. I don't have a felt sense in my body.
Super. Could you pass it on to someone else? You were muted.
Anne-Marie.
Thank you. Somewhere deep down, I would say in the mud of the lotus, where the lotus comes from, I sense a deep truth that I feel we are exploring and inviting to make itself visible. And I pass on to Lisa Marie.
Thank you. A balance of give and take, and the word justice does give me a little charge, because what's perceived, how justice plays in the world and what its meaning of its word, I don't think are congruent in our lifetime right now.
Thank you. And who are you throwing it over to?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Spirit man.
Unitive justice, what comes to mind is concrete ideality of the universal consideration of all. And this is sort of a Hegelian kind of term, but it just means a sense of belonging and absolute reciprocity in the truth of things. And I'll kind of throw it over to Andrea.
The image I have coming up is the infinity symbol, this kind of extreme balance and expansion, and the way it kind of touches in the middle. Pass it to Rosalba.
For me, it's the same as Lisa Marie. So I can't add it. It's balance. And the felt sense, though, is a strong, it feels like a rod in the middle upholding. And I'll pass to Dr. Tom Acklin.
Thank you. That's such a fascinating presence, Rosalba, because I was just present after the infinity to the unitive justice being the context for permission for weakness, right? And the oscillating hiding that we do. And I'm also amused by my camera on, camera off this morning. I apologize for that, but I'm moving around handling things. With the lotus flower and the emergence of my surrender into unitive justice, right? It's a surrender of personal agenda. It's a surrender of the say X, produce X mentality, right? And what if the lotus retreat is not so much what we think of as going to sleep and putting the issue to bed? What if it actually is the entering of the unitive justice space, where the wisdom, the archetypes, we have access there to the wisdom, and then all of a sudden with renewed, wow, right, out we come.
Beautiful. Thank you. Who are you passing to, Tom?
You, Hillary.
Oh, me. I'm in emergence with it, because similar to Mary Elizabeth in a session earlier this week, there was an energy of paradigm shift and with the words not quite emerging yet. And I really resonated to going down with the lotus into the depths of the water, especially in a session like we did yesterday, where going into the deep with death and then emerging with new life is something that really comes to mind. So, and it's, for me, I'm still in the unknowing, but I know it's shifting. I know there's something deeply, deeply, deeply different in the term justice. And even in unitive, there's something shifting in those two words. And I am going to take over to Anita.
The words that come up for me are emerging, embracing, and flowing. And I'll pass it. I think I'm one of the last. Pamela, have you been? Okay, passing it on to Pamela.
I think of it as punitive justice versus unitive justice. So the punitive justice is a concept that's in separation, and the unitive justice is a concept that's in unity.
Juliet, I think, hasn't gone.
Yes, Juliet.
Thank you. Yeah, I really resonate, particularly with what Hillary and Pamela said just now, because on the one hand, it seems like the concept of justice kind of comes from an old paradigm where there's a right and a wrong, and yet we're evolving. So and I really appreciate what Tom brought in about the kind of the Shiva, the darkness, being the essence of all that then comes, you know, the dark, when the lotus is under or closed. So to me, unitive justice seems like it might be part of a process of moving from old paradigm, where I like the punitive versus unitive justice, but maybe we'll be moving beyond the concept of justice, because justice in some ways connotates it to me that humans are in a position to judge, and we're just one of the whole ecosystem. And I see I see that more humility might be, and being part of the process rather than being kind of putting ourselves on top to judge or think about being able to be involved in any way in justice, because it's so much bigger than anything that our brains can comprehend, our intellect can take on board. Thank you.
I think I'm the last one.
You are.
And through a couple of experiences during this, what's come to me is a twirling, a spinning energy moving up dimensions or paradigms. So for me, it's this, and dancing with justice. That's what has come to me, and that's a body sensation as well as a visual.
So thank you. I'm just going to close this part of it because now we're going to actually move into listening to the archetypes. And I'm sure they're dancing right now in terms of even listening into this inquiry, and the fact that we're even having this inquiry, and the fact that we have such a range, but still some really interesting synergies amongst the senses and feelings of what we sense is moving. Something's really moving, and it's part of a larger shift that's going on, but this is a very precious piece of it. So over to you, Diana Claire, to tap us into the archetypes.
Thank you. We're doing because of time limit, we're doing a very compressed constellation process. And because of that, I'm going to, and Pamela, will you pin the people I call? I have asked certain people to represent today the archetypes. For those of you who are new to constellation, or I haven't worked with you before, so you may not be new to it, but I don't know you, I'm going to invite you to be witnesses of this process. And we find witnesses are as important as the representatives, because as a witness, you can either get an overview of all of the messages coming through, or you may find when I guide the representatives into what they're going to represent, that you feel drawn also to represent one of the letters we're going to use. So as witnesses, the representing in this case means no, don't try and imagine or think really about what's happening. We allow information to move us and move through us, energy and information. And then I'm going to ask for reports, which is the way we get the messages. So Pamela, if you would please pin Mary Elizabeth. Andrea. Anita. Lisa Marie. Rosalba. And Mary Elizabeth. Sorry, not and Anne Marie. The double barrel names. And Anne Marie, please. And would you please have papers with A, B, C, D, E, and F? And when you're ready. Okay. Rosalba, I don't think you probably have the circle that we're going to use. So in your room, in your space, if you could just do a line from that has a past and a future. Okay. Right. So I know I'm the only one that knows the archetypes, what these letters actually refer to, and they're archetypes of justice. And Hillary, if I can't actually see you either, but Hillary, I'm wondering, do we want to name the archetypes and they won't know who's which one, or leave it totally blind?
My suggestion is totally blind.
All right.
Because even the names might make evoke something that it might limit. So I think my suggestion is let's go blind.
Okay. So as we usually do, would you lay out those letters and feel who you are called to represent right now? And if you, as you know, please raise your hand or let me know. Witnesses, so you can do the overview, listening. Yes, I am going to open the knowing field once. Thanks, Pamela. All right. The witnesses can do the overview, or you might feel drawn to one of those letters, and you too can have information coming through. So we'll check with you at the end.
What we will say is that the archetypes are from across time and cultures.
So if you know Mary Elizabeth.
E, did you want me to say the number, the letter?
I do.
Already?
Yes. Is anybody else feel drawn to E? Anita did too. And did you?
E and B could also be B.
Okay, so I'm just going to check. Did anybody else have B? No. Okay, so Anita, will you be B? And Mary Elizabeth is going to be E. And as you'll see, they're going to change their names so that we just see who they, what they're representing. So, so who else? What other letters? Andrea.
I have C.
C. Is anybody else C? No. Okay. I'm sorry, D?
D for Lisa Marie.
Okay.
I can do A and D.
Okay, would you do A then? Because
Sure.
Okay. And Rosalba, that leaves you with F. Are you okay representing F? Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. So we're going to just take a moment and I'm going to call in the knowing field. So we set the container and then I'm going to ask you to place yourselves in the field. So when I call in the knowing field, it's a form of meditation. So if you would put your feet on the ground or whatever way you feel comfortable meditating. And I usually have my eyes closed when I call in the knowing field. So welcome to the knowing field, this sacred container which we do our work today. Great gratitude for your sacred containment. I acknowledge the great mystery that invites us to explore and experiment together. I also acknowledge and give thanks for Indigenous teachings from around the world that all life is sacred. And within that teaching, that when we are in right relations with our ancestors, past and future, life flows smoothly. I acknowledge Bert Hellinger, the founder of this work. I acknowledge and give thanks for the thousands of constellators who have done and continue to do this work to bring it forward, let it emerge into these times. I acknowledge and give thanks for the thousands of constellations that have been done and continue to be done all around the world that provide us some of the energy and information for today's session. We'll take a moment now for each of us to call in our mothers in our mother line. Just notice where you are in relationship with this lineage. For me, they're behind my left shoulder. That may or may not be true for you. So just notice. We also call in our fathers in our father line. And again, notice where you are in relationship to that lineage. For me, behind my right shoulder. And we do this, remembering that this is how life has come to us and moves through us. I invite each of you to call in any other resources you wish for today's session to support. A resource. This can be people living or dead, it can be animals or animal spirits or nature of any kind, trees. It can be forces like joy. And it can also be angels, archangels, whatever is a resource for you. And when you feel ready, please open your eyes and come back to the computer. I'm going to invite you all to enter the field and find your place at one time. And then when you know your place, if you will report. Pamela, will you change Andrea to B?
Sorry.
No, that's Anita, sorry. Andrea is C. Oh, there, oh, she's done it. Thank you. And while you're there and standing on, once you've found your place, just notice how your first impression, what comes. So when you check in, you will check in your place and what's happening to you. Thanks, Spirit Man. So when
Diana, are you wanting us to speak?
well, I'm not sure that everybody's found their place yet, so we're gonna just give a moment here. And Mary Elizabeth just froze, I think. So when you know where you are and you are ready to speak, if you'll come to the computer so that we can make sure we hear them. So F, I'm not sure, are you? Yeah.
I can even speak, Diana.
I just hold for a sec, please, okay? If you can. Is everybody ready?
Yes.
Okay, so F seems to want to speak right away. Yeah.
I can't find my place, and I'm when I'm in the past, I'm collapsing, and I'm trying to go to the future, and I'm crying, and I can't seem, and I'm wobbly the whole time. It's good when I go forward, but I'm wobbly all the way through to the front. I can't find my place.
Okay, so F, while you're listening to others speak, if you could find a place outside the circle, not try to come into that time, but you're in maybe another dimension or something, see if you can find a way that you're stable.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah. All right.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to call on each of you. So would B speak first, please? Where are you and your message, your sense of yourself?
I feel restless. I can't settle on a place either. I have a sense of feeling anxious. And the more that I feel like I need to stay put somewhere, the stronger the pent-up energy becomes.
So are you anywhere in this? Are you in the circle? Are you outside the
Yeah, well, I haven't tried. And when you said it to F, to go out, to go outside the circle, I thought, oh, I'm going outside.
Okay, so while the others are speaking, allow yourself to see if there's a place outside the circle, okay?
Sure.
Okay, would D please speak?
Yes. Standing, trying to find, I could not find a place inside the circle. I just was spinning. So I did step outside the circle, and I feel more stable, not spinning. And I'm outside the circle, behind number one, but a little ways back behind number one, looking at number one. But I'm not looking at, I'm looking at the whole thing.
my
So looking into the circle in a way.
yeah, I can see the whole thing. My attention goes through number 1 over to like 7 and 8. And I feel very, I feel an affinity for future and emerging future.
Mhm.
Yeah, like I could get closer to them as well.
Thank you. Would A please check in?
Yes, I'm standing way behind 11, seeing the whole, seeing also past, emerging past, seeing the future, emerging future. And when I connect with when I see the emerging future, that brings a whole lot of strong connection, joy, and exchange of joy. The looking at the emerging past and beyond kind of gives a sense of, I see you, it's good, let's just be present. In seeing the whole circle and seeing everything, it gives there's a loving, caring energy. There's also something a little bit amused and also anticipation. I tried to come in from the past, but I needed to go sideways around the circle between the 6 and 12 and stepped through to all the way around till 11 and then started to move backwards.
Yeah.
Till I found my place.
Thank you. So when you say moving backwards, you mean you're outside the circle?
I'm very far, yes, I'm far outside the circle. I would say really in the same level of beyond emerging future, even in my room.
Okay. Thank you. Would C please come in?
But I declare it's very grounded. So it's a huge overview and it's also expansive on that sense in the times, but it's also very grounded.
Okay, thank you. C.
Pillar of light.
Yeah, I also took me a moment to find my place. I am behind number 1 beside future, so quite close to where D is. My sense is that D is behind me. I don't know how D feels. I was kind of rocking a bit. And also enjoying being outside the circle, looking at the whole clock, whole circle. And I feel a bit more grounded now that D has arrived behind me.
That's fine. That feels good.
Okay, thank you. E.
I'm at the still point in the center of the circle. And I seem to extend way down and way up. I feel patient and I feel waiting. And I seem to hold some element of mystery.
Thank you. F. Would you able to stabilize anywhere?
Yeah, as soon as I heard about the circle, I mean, I couldn't find a spot anywhere outside of it, but above it. Okay, and right at the very, like, looking down, and I wish how can I say, a curiosity, a neutrality, like there's no, I don't feel anything else. I'm just curious, and I am just there, and I am fine, but I have to see the whole.
Yeah.
All right. There's much we could explore, and I'm going to ask each of you who are
What about B? Has B found a place? B is in boy?
Yes.
Yeah, I have, let me, I'm located outside in the garden where the flowers are blooming. And I still feel energized, but I feel grounded and there and present, but I feel very far removed from the clock. And so I did not pick up any of the places where everybody else is. So I need a reminder where all the other markers go, because it just didn't come in.
Okay, thank you.
So can you give me an update on E and C and D? That's the ones I don't know where they are.
So each of you, E is in the center, in the still point. C is
And D?
close to D.
And where is D?
D is at 1 o'clock outside the circle, facing in to see the circle.
Yeah, thank you.
And also feel a little, not way up high, but it's important to be able to see it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And when I was holding E in my hand, I was like, this is going to go in the middle. And it brings, it just feels right, I can say.
So we have an interesting picture here with, except for E, everyone is, and E is holding the still point. So in a way, multidimensional, and everyone else is outside the circle. So from whatever the circle represents for all of the elements now, the circle is representing something and the elements are outside the circle looking at that circle. So just be aware that yes, A.
For me, it was very clear. The circle is humanity doing its things.
That's what I felt.
Totally that. Just the human dynamics, the people, all the stuff going on. And that was, I felt a loving, caring, and also a little, like I said, a little bit amused, and also kind of like, okay, well, let's hold the space. Yeah.
And Diana Claire for D, similar, but like, yeah, a little humorously, like, yeah, that's just a human construct.
And my dog is in her sleep, crying and, yelping.
Wow.
I want to laugh at the circle.
Okay, so I'm going to ask each of you who are representatives now to bring a message to the field. And I know this is very fast, but just invite your essence to bring a message from the archetype that you are representing to the field. And we're going to say that the center, where you're all looking actually overview into the center, is humanity, or all peoples. So what message are you bringing to all peoples, each of you? And I'm going to ask in the order that the first order. I'll wait if I can wait for you to the end, but B, would you please speak first?
So when I come a little closer to the circle, so I can at least see it, I feel I'm standing with my arms open in an embrace, and I feel a lot of love. And I'm here if you need me. I'm also here when you don't need me.
Okay. Thank you. Would D?
D, I still want to laugh. Humanity, loosen up. All this structure, there's a message about dismantle the structure, let it go, be in flow. Yeah, I get why you have the structure, but you really don't need structure. That has to dismantle it and be in flow.
Thank you. A.
Something about, hey guys, look up. Look up in the sense of it's so all busy on its own things and doing all these things with structures and all the busyness. Take a breath, look up, look each other's in the eyes, look yourself in the eyes. Look at the surrounding, it's beautiful. Just pay attention and what comes up. And I know that's also a sentence in me, so I don't know if it's the A or if it's, but what if it's easy? It is. It's here and there's joy and presence. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. C.
Yeah. Oh, one more thing is coming. Co-create with all life forms. Hello, you're not here alone. Come on. There's these others as well. They're calling out to you.
I really like what A says a lot. He likes A lot.
Thank you. C.
It's been quite an intense experience, actually. Mostly I wanted to just leave. A lot of discomfort, and then because I was kind of seeing the whole, and then when I turned around, so I was really getting this message of how uneasy and easeful these times are, but the word time feels strange to use. And I felt a much more peaceful shift when I actually turned around and had that at my back and looked towards the future. So I feel like the message is, the future is inviting us forward, or there's something about the future. Yeah, it's just move on. I guess is the easy way to put it. Thank you.
Thank you.
The other dog that was at my feet is stood up and is grumpily walking away now.
Thank you. E. In the still point.
And this is a message to all peoples.
Yes. From
find the stillness within. Open hearts. Open your hearts. And find your rightful place in the web of life.
Mm-hmm. Oh, cool.
Thank you. And F.
There's one more word. This is really important to all peoples. Learn humility. Learn humility.
Thank you. And F. You're muted, F, you're muted.
So I went from feeling very curious and neutral to feel as if I was feeling everything. And so tears, but there was compassion, there was love, and the message of belonging. And my two dogs walked in when I came with that.
My dog is walking in again as well. The one that walked away grumpy and is now lying behind A.
So F, was it belonging?
And there was also this piece of compassion and feeling it all. So I'm just telling you what my process was within here. I don't know if it's a message not. I know you're asking for a message, but all I can tell you is I went from feeling curiosity, neutrality, to feeling I'm crying, tears, and it was compassion. There was love. There was a sense of belonging. There was a holding it all. I
Thank
can't
you.
tell you anything more. And that's when my dogs arrived.
And dogs arrive. Okay, thank you, animal spirits. Okay. As I said, we're doing this very quickly, so for those of you who've been representing, please come back to your computer and you could release yourself from your representation. And I'm going to disclose who you are, because three of you have to leave in a few minutes. What I'm going to do is ask you to just, when I reveal, we'll just do a circle of, from yourself, what was it when you found out who you were? Okay. So B is MAAT, M-A-A-T, which is Egyptian. D is Themis, which is Greek. A was Justitia, which is Roman. C was Durga. E was Sacred Crow Woman, the Sacred Law Crow Woman.
Which letter was that?
That was E, Sacred Law Crow Woman. And F was Unitive Justice. Okay, so if you could say.
Can you say them one more time?
Yes, B is MAAT. D is Themis, Greek. A is Justitia, Roman. C is Durga, Hindi. E is Sacred Law Crow Woman, North American Indigenous. And F was Unitive Justice. So would you please, we'll do it A, B, C, D, E, like say from yourself, I'm Mary Elizabeth, and I now am knowing I'm Sacred Crow Woman, except I'm going to ask A to start. So Anne Marie.
I'm Anna Marie, I was representing Justitia. I guess I don't know enough about the archetypes. What I'm holding is, wow, there was such an expansion also to far beyond the emerging future. So somehow there's still there's a relevance. There's a relevance there in holding it, and also going way back. So yeah. That I understand, but the future, okay, well, to be taken forward. Thank you so much.
B.
I am Anita, and I represented MAAT. I don't know what MAAT, we've talked about it a lot. It's come up a lot in TAC, but I really have no idea what MAAT is. And the sense I have that MAAT is there and present and ready to hold and embrace, but also kind of removed from it.
Thank you.
So,
C. Durga.
I got a big smile when I heard that.
I saw that.
Yeah, I mean, Durga Ma was, the mother of all. yeah, the sense I had in the conversation, it's weird that I kind of wanted to leave, but I knew I couldn't, like that. And I do actually feel that it's quite motherly, kind of looking at it all, holding it all, a lot of discomfort, but ability. And then, yeah, just such a clarity of looking to the future, and that there was, if I could focus there, then it was pulling me out of the discomfort. So that feeling really quite important for this archetype.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's a strength to it for sure.
Thank you. D.
I don't know anything about Themis. I just looked her up. Goddess, child of earth and sky, or Gaia and sky. I'd like to learn more about her because I think she has a nice sense of humor.
Great. Thank you. E. Sacred Law Crow Woman.
I smiled. I relate to spanning dimensions of the sacred creative void and mystery. I felt very grateful and privileged to represent Crow Woman. And crows, for me, are way showers, and they show up a lot in my life.
Thank you.
Diana, may I make one statement about MAAT?
Sure, please do.
Okay, so I'm wearing MAAT around my neck. She has a headdress. She's from Egypt. MAAT has a feather. And she is balance, like cosmic balance, order. And MAAT stands at the scales of justice. And Anubis brings the soul up, and MAAT weighs the heart against a feather. There's a, like that. Gives you a taste of MAAT. Thank you.
And F. Unitive Justice, leaping in as you did today.
It was fascinating, Diana. So thank you. It really spoke to me. As soon as you said that, I went, "Ah," and I realized the unit of justice is a misnomer, because the unit is the whole. It's not one tiny piece of it. It's the whole. And what came to me is, I know I don't have the saying correct, but something about they drew a circle and excluded me, and I drew a bigger circle and included them.
No,
You can't remove any part of it.
Thank you, thank you. So, Rosalba, I know you need to leave, and Anne-Marie, you need to leave. So I want to thank you so much for your participation and listening. Rosalba, I'll get in touch with you afterwards so I can let you know more of what happened, okay? Thank you for being here. Feel free to leave as you need to. And Pamela, if you will unpin us, and I remind.
Can I just say one thing?
Yes.
Before I leave, I'm really touched, but also feel kind of like this opening of perspective as me, Annemarie, with what you said. They drew a circle and excluded me. I drew a larger circle and included them. I mean, that is for me mind-blowing, so clear, so easy, so exactly what I actually feel with the universal heart and the love that we're trying to bring. But to voice it like that, thank you so much. I think that is such a beautiful pointer. I take that with me whilst I go into conversation with robot Sophia later today around AI and compassion, and how we can make sure that circle that we draw around all life forms includes that all. Thank you.
Thank you for emphasizing that, Anne-Marie, and for showing up today. Blessings. So Ginger has joined us, and I don't know if I'm not sure when you entered, so, but welcome, and Karen also.
Thank you so much. I had a bumpy night, so I was late arising this morning, and I did come in late, and I do have to follow Dr. Tom. So it was a joy hearing, and that's what I, for just my minimal time in, I felt, I don't even know if I'm supposed to say this, but I felt the joy arising. I mean, it was just palpable. It's like I call my Jello dimension. I was in my Jello dimension just for the few moments I was here, the joy bubbling up like a bubble of Jello. I was in, and you are all there in my Jello bubble. That's
Thanks so much, Ginger.
okay. Love you guys. Later.
So I invite everyone to release, especially the representatives. You may need to do that physically. And we also have witnesses, and I would check in with, or Hillary, do you want to check in with the witnesses? And then we can open to what did we hear? What did we learn? So, Hillary.
I would also like to, we have some visuals of each of the archetypes, and I'm wondering if at this time, because Mary Elizabeth mentioned MAAT and her feather. Well, I'm wondering, Diana Claire, do we want to listen to the witnesses first, and then show the actual
I think
images?
we'll do that, and then use the images, and then spark a conversation.
And then spark the conversation. Sounds great. So I've good. We had some wonderful witnesses that just experience. For some have witnessed constellations before, others not. So what's your initial response to what you witnessed, as well as what you heard in the reveal?
That includes Pamela. Eh?
Yes, it absolutely includes Pamela. Any thoughts? Any responses?
This is my first exposure to it, so I had no idea what it was. And it sounded quite intricate and not complicated, but there was a definite structure. It wasn't just a jump in. So I didn't know what was happening in the beginning, but when you were saying, Diana Claire, to find a number or a letter, the first thing, and I don't know why, but A came to me, and it was Athena. And it was interesting that Anne-Marie had found it's a different archetype in the end, completely. But it was really interesting to see, I suppose, the restlessness, the anxiety that was the people really physically felt before it was revealed that the circle in which they felt that they couldn't find their place was revealed to be Gaia right now, in this epoch, this time in humanity, and that so many felt a kind of restlessness and anxiety. It was a really interesting process. Thank you.
Thank you.
Am I considered a witness, Hillary?
Yes.
I don't know if you.
Yes, you're considered a witness.
So
yes, you are.
I literally witnessed it. So
yeah, exactly.
Makes sense. I guess I can say a comment. I'm very intrigued by this process, because there's these two worlds, the analytical world and then the world of beingness, intuition and feeling. So feeling, logic, this dichotomy. And this is a very strong and direct sort of intuitive understanding, getting in touch with a message that isn't always accessible to rational thinking. And so when I was trying to figure out this map and what the signposts were that we were using in temporal spatiality to map out this inner world, I was curious to see this interplay going on and how it aligns with these, there's supposed to be this supersensuous essence behind things, and we can align with it or not align with it. And so as the participants were going through this, they're technically aligning with this beingness, this spontaneity. And I thought, you know, because we're being recorded, the safe thing to sort of do is just kind of stay positive all the time and not say anything controversial. But the participants actually did, you know, they're moving with this energy and they were going with it fully, the good and the bad, and this rebounding and seeing how the words played off of each other. There's an inner unity to the words that's there objectively, even without us. And that's the trying to track down the archetypes, I'm guessing. And I thought that was really interesting. So especially around priming the space with words like unitive justice, which are usually nebulous and unclear. They're not very rationally defined. And there's a sort of new way of thinking that I came from, where we have found a way to sort of define and end the infinite regression of these murky words that don't seem to have, they seem to be abused words, or they're, you know, whitewashed or greenwashed or something like this. And when there's an interesting new way to bridge these worlds in a sort of unity, a circle where it grounds itself. And it felt like this group was trying to do that. So that was a long comment, but I hope it was useful. That's what I witnessed.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
So, yeah. I found it really interesting that everybody wanted to stay outside the circle except the one in the still point, which is, yeah, like Diana Claire, more multidimensionality. And, you know, what does that mean? And then when I heard about letting go of the structure and being in flow, that just seems so right. we humans have been playing around with all of this stuff that's waylaid us, and that and even the term justice seems heavy and but really justice can be about the unity and the oneness and the inclusiveness and the belonging and the and can we find our way to that, bigger view of what justice could be? And we've got all these ancient archetypes way back there that hold that, and yet humanity's been through this tunnel of structure and oppression, and now we're moving out into a beautiful world again.
Lovely. Karen, do you have anything you would like to share with us before we have a look at what these archetypes actually look like? I guess not. Okay. So I'm just going to so there's our lotus, and we talked about what it was. So archetypes are really fascinating, and this is a very, on the left-hand side is a very modern view of archetypes, but renowned psychologist Carl Jung, he used the concept of archetype in his theory of the human psyche, and he was one of the first ones that actually brought that term in. And he believed that universal mythic characters, i.e. archetypes, reside within the collective unconscious of people the world over. So these were all types of models of thinking. They had many dimensions to them. And for him, archetypes represent fundamental human, sorry, my thingy is really, Okay, we're gonna go to MAAT. Sorry, my side slipped. So this is MAAT. And as Mary Elizabeth said, her feather of truth. So as we go through these, I would ask you to just, if there's any element of these beautiful archetypes that are speaking to you, just note them. So here was MAAT. Here is Themis, the Greek. Again, if there's any elements that you're noticing or speaking to you, just make a note of them. Justitia. Durga. And Sacred Law Crow Woman. And here they all are.
So let's just sit with this for a bit so we can explore the images, if that's okay, Hillary.
Yes, that's why I put them all on one, so we can have a look at them.
Thank you.
In listening to what we've just heard, and with Sacred Crow Woman sitting in the still point, and these other magnificent archetypes that have witnessed our structures for eons. They have seen what we've done with the structures of justice, with the structures of all of our different, our civilization structures. They have watched us create them. They have watched us destroy them. They have watched us evolve. They have watched us fall down. So they have witnessed all of these different elements of how we have utilized structure to make sense of our world, utilize structure to actually create our world. And now they're witnessing something very different. What are some of the elements of these beautiful archetypes that you're drawn to?
I'm compelled to say they're all strong feminine archetypes. Just very, yeah, it's loud and clear.
Mm-hmm. And what does that mean for you, Andrea, when you sense into that strong female presence? And what comes to mind in terms of that, the nature of the strength? What is the nature of the strength?
Like all loving. But yeah, there's just like such a power to all of them. It feels just foundational, is the only word I can express.
Beautiful.
Well, a couple of things I was drawn to. One is the sword that seems to enter with the Greek and then the Roman. And we can look at the sword as like warrior, that kind of thing. I know that, for instance, Archangel Michael's images, he carries the sword of truth. So the sword has many meanings, but I'm curious how that fits in the way we see these archetypes.
Well, Durga has a spear. She's armed.
And a spear, yeah.
And she has a sword.
And a sword, yeah, that's
yeah.
true. Also a sword.
She's well equipped.
Yeah.
It helps when you have lots of hands.
I'm kind of struck with the information that in all these early civilizations, there was this something that comes from deep within, that there is a something that has to be expressed around justice, and that it is in different cultures, it's expressed through the feminine. And with MAAT also being natural order, so bringing order into civilization, maybe a desire for life being just, when I'm sure a lot of people don't always experience life as being just. Justice is being done and the desire for it. And like there's a common movement to go towards the feminine, to receive that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was really, really struck by sacred law. What is it? Sacred Law Crow Woman. I hadn't heard of her before. And when you first mentioned her without the picture, I thought, oh, that sounds very interesting. But when I saw her, I thought, that's me. I'm her. She's in me. There was just this immediate recognition, I suppose. And interestingly enough, where I live is called Glen an Fricon in Irish, which means Glen of the Crows. And it's a special crow place here, or ravens, rooks, they call them here, but crow, rook, that's the same thing. And they come in, we have a rookery, or the crowery, beside us, where the crows come in. So we every evening, just after around sunset, and then they go off around dawn. So our days are to the rhythm of the crow, and they're often around. I mean, there's a very crow presence here, but just looking at her, I just feel I feel her essence as me. And it's funny because the others I think are beautiful and really, oh, that's really interesting. But the other one was just right here. Thank you.
Beautiful.
I feel compelled to speak after you, Juliet, because this word essence triggers a lot for me now. Before this transformation kind of happened to me, I didn't really, I always had this attunement, like feeling like there was something out there, kind of being agnostic about it. But now there's this really profound sense of alignment that actually does happen between the sensuous and the super sensuous. And even with these pictures here, they're trying to like align these archetypes with our contingent expressions, like it's called abstract freedom. It's like we can align with these or not. And I think Carl Jung knew this. And you just said you align with the essence of this crow woman, because there's something in you that aligns with it. And so for me, I was just thinking, well, I noticed right away these scales, these balancing scales. And I was wondering why that is, what's in me that's causing me to align with the objectivity, the absolute truth that's there, even if I'm not here. Like these archetypes seem to be eternal. And I'm a Gemini. So the Gemini is supposed to be a scale. And I'm like, oh, I wonder if that primed me. Like, I wonder if I absorbed that and now I'm filtering for it. But on another level, there's a sort of mystical rationality where the scales represent balance and proportionality. And that there are some mystics that say all truth, all justice is based on clear judgments of truth. And somebody at the beginning said unitive justice reminded them of judgment, but just judgment, which is based in the truth, which has to do with these proportionalities. And when they're not in proportion, you have to use the masculine force energy. But here we have females, which is important because they have like this masculine kind of sword or some kind of strong presence that Andrew was talking about. But women actually represent the completion, like a concretion, which has that clarity of inclusiveness. And you have to take the whole to know where the parts are. So I'm just noticing these are kind of like dialectics, the speculative consciousness of what I guess right thinking should be, right in terms of having like a liberation of spirit to be yourself authentically in this kind of freedom, sense of destiny. So I just noticed that was the essence that I was kind of tuning into, and that could be the archetypes.
For
I
me,
just want to add, sorry.
Yes.
I just wanted to add that normally I'm looking more intellectual, from the brain or from the thinking perspective. And so I thought that MAAT was something I could really, someone I could identify with that. But Sacred Law Crow Woman was experiential. It was completely bypassing any thinking or rationale or thoughts or logic or past or any reasoning. It was just straight to the heart, which is something that's unusual. I'm learning to do. Moving from intellectually processing to this more experiential, just the feeling. And this was probably one of the first times it struck me so strongly.
Wow.
Because that was somebody, was a woman who I thought, oh yeah, I can identify with that. Yeah. You know, intellectually or thinking wise, that was my woman. But then the other one, it just grabbed me by the heart without thinking.
That's beautiful. So as we start to close,
Mary Elizabeth
Yes.
wants to speak.
I wanted just to say something about the swords. For me, one aspect has always been cutting through illusion to the, you know, to the truth. The other thing I would just, let's see. I find these extremely powerful images and very beautiful, and I love that they're feminine, divine feminine. I think the feminine and the divine feminine has a different relationship to life than the masculine. The question that is alive in me is, what is the new archetype? I believe there is a new archetype in the collective consciousness wanting to emerge, and it hasn't emerged yet. And I'm interested, I respect and bow before the ancient archetypes, and there's a new archetype. I can feel it in the collective consciousness, and it's not in form yet, even in image. So I wanted that in the field.
Thank you for that. It was very apparent in the constellation itself that the movement towards the future and emerging future. So thank you for voicing that in our circle, Mary Elizabeth. I was going to actually bring that up as a next step, is the evolution of the archetypes, and the allowing the new archetypes to emerge. One of the things I want to bring in, because it's a question that I used to have, and the notion that are archetypes part of human consciousness? Are they actually essences beyond human consciousness? And I worked with a man named Bernard Lataire at one point, and he works a lot with, he's passed now, but he worked with money. And he used a mapping of some archetypes to teach about the evolution of money through time. And he did an experiment with his students at the Sorbonne, where he brought in the archetypes, and I can't remember the pattern, but he used the warrior. Somebody might remember the fivefold. There was the warrior, anyway, what he discovered, what showed up in this research, is the warrior is an archetype that's pre-human consciousness. It's the energy that actually holds, if I remember correctly, holds the world together. So I just bring that forward because I don't know if others have had that question. Where are archetypes just human consciousness or unconsciousness? Or are they beyond that? So anyway. Hillary, what do you want to, what next with our group?
Well, it was just what I'd like to do is our timing. I just want to check out our timing. We have until what time?
Well, we actually have till 10 our time, which the top of the hour, but I also would like to go with the energy of the group.
So whatever. But I would just like to sort of build on what you both said in terms of, I think there's many new archetypes that are wanting to come in. And I think that there is actually a whole a whole troop that are in formation, and they are waiting to form in ways that can be, in my sense, the most helpful to us. So they are, is justice one? Maybe not. Maybe it combines with a different kind of need that we have, and puts it together in a and co-creates a different form. So I agree there is a new archetype, but I also think that what's going to be fascinating is to see how they come, in what form they come, and how they will likely merge what we have separated in the past and bring them in a blended kind of way, in an integrated kind of way. Because I think a lot of our archetypes in the past were were siloed. We had, we have justice as for an example, as an archetype. Well, maybe justice has to marry with with learning, or with creation, or with a different type of archetype in order to bring its energy in. So I think it's going to be absolutely fascinating. And I'm also seeing that very old archetypes like weaving is coming in a fundamentally different way. And again, I just think that we're in a time when these emergences, being aware of what's forming and what's in the field of formation that's going to start to show up. And how will we know when it's showing up? I don't know. It's going to be very interesting. So the question that we wanted to sort of close with and your thoughts around is, and I think there's a very interesting opening for us right now, because the original questions were, what is justice becoming, and what is unitive justice? And I have a feeling that those questions are on the side now. I'm going to ask you, what do you sense is the question we're being asked to explore based on what we just experienced in that wonderful constellation?
I left a comment in the chat here about how I feel like there's so much happening. We almost struggle with it. And there's a little bit of struggling, like with the participants. But I really like what you said, Diana, that these essences they might have been way before us, but we're using them. And the way, like, how do you recognize when they come out? Like, did we experience justice today? These powerful female archetypes. I wonder if there's different camps of this, and it seems a little bit mystical, but I feel like there's a scientific way to do this so that they can be respected. I think the mystics always had this, the ancient knowledge, the indigenous Aboriginal tribes had this. But as they tried to bring it into this sort of colonial, sort of rigid structure that has dominated, they're ignored because it seems woo-woo, or it seems like it doesn't have any substance to it. And so I feel like there's some kind of unity between these two, where we return to like a restoration of this more holistic kind of archetypal thinking, where you think in these gestalts, but there's a right order to things. These archetypes are connected to each other, and they flow. There's like an inner flow to them, and we can have it in our being, intuitive, but we can also think them. And Juliet, you were saying a little bit that you're more like getting in touch with this flowing. And I feel like if we can't explicate them, we can't really use them with our will. We can be them, but we can't really think them. And right now, what we're trying to do is get clarity in a thinking way on how to get into a recognition with these, to reincorporate the fullness that we're missing in reality, because this lack of fullness is creating a meaning crisis where we're not even sure who we are or what we're doing here, and we're destroying ourselves. We're literally destroying ourselves. So I feel like this marriage has to happen, and I think it has to happen with these essences. And I think there might be 230 that we have access to somewhere in the ancient teachings. So I'm very excited about this process. I'm sorry for speaking at length, but I just wanted to add that in there.
You said something really critical though around finding meaning, And I think originally the archetypes were probably came in to help us explore what was meaning and the meaning. And I want to bring that element in around exploring meaning, but also what Mary Elizabeth said around relationship to life. Because life in itself, the essence of life and what it is and what it is becoming, life is becoming again. And life in all its forms, in nature, in the cosmos, in humanity, you know, we have this opportunity to really understand this fullness of life and the meaning of this fullness of life, and how these archetypes can actually help us with a form of blueprint, if you will, or different kind of structure. They have a different kind of structure to them, can help us explore that. Is really quite magical. What other questions are coming for you, having experienced it? I'd love it for you know, because Anita, you had an interesting experience with wanting to be, and when you talked about I'm in my garden with the blooms, you know, like that to me, that's life. That's that you were all drawn into this essence of life. So what are some of the is there a question that's emerging for you having had this experience?
Yeah, what comes up when I'm listening to everything and it's sinking in? I'm wondering, because what strikes me is that all these early civilizations looked for an archetype or something that expresses the desire for justice. And sometimes when we can't find it here, it comes in an afterlife. And there's a desire for a natural order, like a structure in life. We might not like it, but it seems like I was reading up on MAAT, and she was very much about bringing order. But also what I'm bringing with me is the earlier constellation that we did, but how does justice feel at beige, at a very early existence of life, and that whatever is there is what is happening and is the right thing to happen, like you eat or you get eaten, like and so we have this thing that something is bad and something is right and wrong, and it's very clear. And maybe it's not so, or maybe there's not that explicit separation that we bring into it. So those are questions that come up, like and I felt very strong as MAAT that being among nature to restore, like being in nature, that I could go into the circle after having been around the flowers and the so maybe that stands for taking a step back from the hustle and bustle of life and find some balance at first. And I don't know. I have questions that I think I would like to explore, like we were talking about, and I thought, oh, we have done all this work on the victim and the perpetrator, and that has a lot to do with justice too. So maybe those are archetypes that we could do a lot of exploring and feeling into, like what might help bring more clarity or depth to our understanding of justice. So there's just a lot to explore.
Yeah, we'll go Andrea and then Mary Elizabeth.
What's really coming up strong is something someone said to me recently, that there's a difference between rules and principles. And what I'm hearing and what you're saying is that I think in a modern day, if we think about laws, which we saw in a constellation the other day, and the quote unquote justice system, it's very different than principles and laws. So I don't know about Crow woman yet, you know, my work with Indigenous people and understanding the original principles and the original laws, they didn't have to do with putting someone in right because they broke a rule, about making rules. They were about the principles and laws of life, of what takes an ecosystem to maintain balance, right? You don't go hunting without the appropriate protocols because you're making sure you don't take enough. And when we spoke a few minutes ago about the future, having new archetypes, you know, I feel like I'm still in Durga a little bit, you know, I felt a lot in my body of yes, you know, and I think if we think about how to be in collective consciousness, how to work as community, how to do what this constellation is doing, which I think brings us into a group sensing, which is the future. It's coming back to, but it's also new that the principles of how to be in balance within ecosystems and relationally, how to be in right relationship, which is another Indigenous principle. And just speaking as someone who's not Indigenous and the little bit I've picked up along the way, not claiming any authority on that, but with, you know, AI, with technology, with all of these things, the understanding of what principles are going to need to be in place are going to be very different from, you know, people who live in closer to nature, who have our ancestors in the past. So I think this idea of new archetypes, of new principles that will come into to knowing of how to live in the orders of balance, you know, as we saw with some of these archetypes, I think it is emerging. And we're going to have to figure it out together because it's going to look very different than the original principles from even, you know, pre-Columbus, like over 500 years ago, these big movements globally. Anyway, so anyway, there's a bit of a download of what's coming through me. So thank you for listening.
Beautiful. Thank you. Mary Elizabeth. Beautiful.
What I'm sitting in is the fullness of the void, the fullness of the still point, which is this beautifully aligned integration point of all the polarities, whether it's mystical and scientific, whether it's, you know, all of them. It's like that still point whole is the integration. So the void is full. That's in me to say.
Pamela.
So the universe consists of both chaos and order. And I think our interpretation of justice has been only the order piece. And we've not included the chaos piece of the universe. So our view of justice has gotten rigid or tight or off track because we've only been focusing on the order piece, whereas the chaos piece, that's where the creativity and the newness and the flow and is in the chaos piece. And so somehow the wholeness is both the chaos and the order.
I'd just sort of like to build on that in terms of what Mark is doing. He is right now one man show of chaos in the Canadian justice system, and is bringing real chaos into a system with a very strong sense of I would say more divine justice than legal justice, to right some very critical wrongs that have happened in the name of the mental health system. And he is literally creating chaos, and it is absolutely phenomenal what he's doing. And if you're interested in finding out more, I would suggest you get in contact with him because he's just friggin' amazing. And his own personal story is so compelling, but it is about bringing the chaos in and using and creating chaos in the system with its own tools. You know, and it's not about bringing other tools in, it's about using the tools of the current system to create the current chaos that can help being able to see where justice really has to live, and this sense of justice. So and coming back to in right relations, also a very strong term in constellations. And so, you know, so what we have been exploring today is concept of justice, unitive justice in right relation to who we are. And I think this has been a magnificent exploration of that.
Yeah. As I listen to this event, I wish I could send it to my nephew. But he's no more.
Well, he's getting it. He is.
Yeah.
He can hear all this. He'll hear all this.
Yeah.
So as we start to, because Mary Elizabeth has to leave in 5 minutes, and I think what we really want to be able to bring our closure together in our time together, so that we feel complete without having to just drop off. Maybe what we can do now is a kind of closing, and what I would love is Diana Claire, if you could just in your beautiful magical way bring us into closure.
Well, I invite each person, as a way of leaving, is to say a word or two where you are, not a statement, just a word or two as a way of leaving. And it's part for me of closing the Unitive Justice room also for this week. It will be continuing in other forms, but and I want to acknowledge and give great thanks. This will be my closing. Give great thanks for the incredible support that we've received from all realms and all beings, people and beyond, to have this happen and begin the discussion and the creation and the moving into the chaos and creativity of and moving beyond probably unitive justice. So thank each of you for being here. And if you just say a word or two to leave, and we'll close this session.
I'm brimming here. I want to say a lot of things, but I'll keep it short. I'm finishing with the words wisdom and clarity. I think that's what we're doing here.
Thank you.
I would say embrace and heartfulness.
Say wholeness.
For me, the emergent unfolding.
Thank you.
I'm resonating with the phrase fullness of the void.
Thank you.
Mine are two: mystery and magic.
Love and blessings all. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
This has been wonderful. Thank you. I love blinds. There is nothing I like more. Really, I'm addicted to blind constellations. I just think they're magnificent. So thank you, Diana Claire. You led it in such a beautiful, as usual, beautiful and clear way, but it was phenomenal what emerged. I don't think we all really, I think we're going to take a little while to ground into what actually emerged today, because that circle and being outside and looking at what's happening with the love and the humor and the embracing. There was no guilt. There was no anger. There was no judgment. It was held as is. And what a way to end a Friday, or start a Friday, I guess, and end the Unitive Justice in the room.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Hillary. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Well done, Diana Claire. Beautiful.
We're gonna stop it.